My name is Daniel, and this is the story of the worst night of my life and the single decision that saved my family's future. If you have ever looked at your insurance policy and thought it was just another boring piece of paper or a monthly bill you wish you did not have to pay, I need you to listen to my story. This is not a sales pitch. This is a real account of how a simple document became the hero of our story when everything we owned turned to ash. Our home was not just a building, it was our sanctuary. It was the place where my wife Sarah and I watched our two kids, Lily and Noah, take their first steps. The walls were covered in family photos and height charts penciled in over the years. The living room was where we built pillow forts on rainy days, and the backyard was Noah's personal soccer stadium. It was a normal Tuesday evening in October. The air was getting crisp, and we had just finished a simple dinner of spaghetti. The kids were in their pajamas, arguing mildly over which movie to watch. It was a perfect, ordinary night. That ordinariness is something I would give anything to feel again. I had just settled into my favorite armchair with a book. Sarah was tidying the kitchen. The house was filled with the familiar, comforting sounds of our life. The hum of the refrigerator, the gentle clinking of dishes, and the distant laughter from the kids' room. I remember feeling a deep sense of contentment. We had worked hard for this life. We had a solid roof over our heads, a steady income, and we were protected. Or at least, we thought we were. The concept of protection was about to be redefined for me in the most brutal way imaginable. The first sign that something was wrong was a faint, acrid smell. I dismissed it at first, thinking maybe Sarah had left a dish in the oven a little too long. But the smell did not go away. It grew stronger, sharper. It was the smell of something electrical burning, a scent you instinctively know is dangerous. I put my book down and called out to Sarah. She smelled it too. That is when we heard a faint crackling sound, not from the kitchen, but from the garage. My heart started to pound. I told Sarah to get the kids and go outside. Now, I moved towards the garage door, my hand hovering over the handle. I made a critical mistake then. I opened the door. The moment I did, a wall of thick black smoke hit me with explosive force. The crackling was now a roar. Orange flames were climbing the far wall, consuming boxes of old memories and climbing towards the ceiling. The heat was intense, a physical blow. In that second, my brain switched from homeowner to survivor. The house was gone. It was a terrifying, instantaneous realization. I slammed the door shut, shouting for Sarah to call the fire department. I stumbled through the smoke-filled hallway towards the front door. The smoke was descending, filling the house like a poisonous fog. I could hear Lily and Noah coughing, crying. Sarah was herding them towards the door, her voice calm but firm, a stark contrast to the sheer panic in her eyes. We burst out into the cold night air, collapsing onto the damp grass. We were safe. We were together. But when I turned back to look at our home, I saw hell. Flames were now licking at the windows of the kids' rooms. The roar was deafening. Sirens wailed in the distance, a sound of hope that felt agonizingly slow to arrive. Standing there on the lawn, shivering in our pajamas, watching 20 years of our life disappear into the sky, is a feeling I cannot fully describe. It is a hollow, crushing emptiness. The firefighters arrived and fought bravely, but the damage was done. Our home was a blackened, smoldering shell. Everything was gone. The photos, the kids' artwork, my grandmother's wedding ring, Noah's first teddy bear, Lily's favorite books. All of it. The material loss was staggering, but the emotional devastation was worse. My children were homeless. The security I had worked my whole life to build had vanished in under an hour. The next few hours were a blur. A kind neighbor took us in, giving us blankets and warm drinks. We sat on their couch, silent and shell-shocked. The kids were trembling, clinging to Sarah. That is when the first wave of practical terror hit me. What do we do now? Where do we go? How do we rebuild? The money we had in savings would not come close to covering the cost of a new home, new clothes, new everything. A deep, cold fear began to set in. I felt like I had failed my family, and then I remembered. The insurance. That boring, complicated policy I had reviewed just 6 months earlier. I had sat down with our agent and made a point to really understand it. We increased our coverage to keep pace with the rising cost of construction. We talked about replacement cost versus actual cash value. We made sure we had additional living expenses coverage. At the time, it felt like a tedious administrative task. But in that moment, on my neighbor's couch, that memory was a tiny, flickering candle in the overwhelming darkness. It was our first hook of hope. The next morning, with a phone borrowed from our neighbor, I made the call I had been dreading but was now desperately hoping would save us. I called the claims number for our insurance company. My hands were shaking. I expected bureaucracy, long holds, and a difficult battle. I was preparing for a fight. To my astonishment, the process was nothing like I feared. The voice on the other end was calm, empathetic, and incredibly efficient. Her name was Linda. After expressing her genuine sympathy for our situation, she got straight to work. She did not ask complicated questions about blame. She focused on us. Are you safe? Do you have a place to stay? Do you need immediate funds for clothes and food? She explained that our policy included something called loss of use or additional living expenses. This meant the insurance company would pay for us to live in a comparable home while ours was being rebuilt. She authorized an immediate emergency funds transfer to my bank account so we could buy essentials. Right then, that day, the relief that washed over me was physical. It was like a weight had been lifted from my chest. The most immediate, terrifying problem, a roof over our heads for the night, was solved. This was not some distant promise. This was real, tangible help within 24 hours of our world ending. It was the first concrete proof that we were not alone. Over the next few days and weeks, the true scope of our insurance policy revealed itself. It was not just about rebuilding a house. It was about rebuilding our lives. A claims adjuster met me at the property. He was not there to lowball me. He was there to document the total loss thoroughly. He explained every step. He talked about sending a crew to board up the structure and secure the property. He discussed the demolition and the process of creating a rebuild plan, but the support went deeper. The policy covered the cost of replacing every single item we owned. This is called personal property coverage. We were provided with access to a cloud-based system to create a detailed inventory of everything we lost. It was an emotionally draining task, sitting there as a family, trying to remember every plate, every shirt, every toy. But the insurance company guided us through it, understanding it was part of the healing process. Then came the support I did not even know we had. Our policy included coverage for emotional distress and counseling services. The kids were having nightmares. Sarah and I were not sleeping. The insurance company connected us with a family therapist who specialized in trauma. That decision to get my kids professional help was covered. That is when I truly understood that a good insurance policy is not a product. It is a partnership. It protects your financial health and your family's well-being. The rebuild took nearly a year. We rented a house in the same school district, paid for entirely by our insurance, so the kids could maintain some normalcy. Every invoice from the builders, every check for new furniture, every receipt for groceries beyond our normal budget, because we were eating out more often. During the chaos, it was all managed through the claim. There were no fights. There was no drama. Because we had adequate coverage, the money was there. The peace of mind that provided was priceless. We could focus on healing as a family instead of fighting over money. We could focus on helping Lily through her fear of the dark and celebrating Noah's birthday in our temporary home, making new happy memories amidst the loss. Walking into the newly rebuilt house for the first time was surreal. It smelled of fresh paint and new wood. It was different, but it was solid. It was safe. It was home. The insurance company did not just give us a check. They gave us a future. They gave my children their security back. They saved my kids from the long-term trauma of not just a fire, but of homelessness and financial ruin. I am not here to tell you which insurance company to use. I am here to tell you to please look at your policy. Today, right now. Do you know what it actually covers? Is your dwelling coverage enough to rebuild your home at today's construction costs? Do you have replacement costs for your belongings? Do you have enough coverage for additional living expenses? Do you have a digital home inventory? If you do not, make one this weekend. Take a video walking through every room of your house. Open every drawer and closet. Store it in the cloud. I used to think insurance was a bet against disaster. I was wrong. It is an investment in your family's resilience. It is the shield that stands between a catastrophic event and the complete unraveling of your life. The monthly premium I paid for years felt like an expense, until the night it became the most valuable asset I owned. Our fire was a tragedy, but it did not break us. It did not bankrupt us. It did not leave my children scarred by more than just the fire. Because we were prepared, we emerged from the ashes. We are a family, stronger than ever, living in a new home built on the foundation of a good decision. Do not wait for the smoke to smell before you check your shield. Protect your family. Make sure your insurance is not just a policy, but a plan. Thank you for listening to our story.